Like, why would the Democrats care about the Republican Party destroying itself because they have a slim majority? You think anytime you think about anything, assume what would the Republicans do in a situation if the roles were reversed, okay? If the Democrats operate in a similar capacity, that means they're doing a good fucking job, okay?
Representatives, and he has failed to take a stand where it matters. So if he won't...
He's failed to take a stand where it matters, killing poor American children.
Every hardworking American to afford a decent life for themselves and their families, and we have a greater opportunity to do that and to build coalitions under new leadership. We have to rip off the Band-Aid. We have to get back on a better...
Wait, he says we want to build coalitions under new leadership, but he's like ousting him because he collaborated with the Democrats.
Pretty predetermined. And this one, I'm not so
Something
sure.
he forced his hand into doing.
I am sure that we've made the right argument, that this place deserves single-subject spending bills, that we should have 72 hours to read a bill, that something that spends more than $100 million shouldn't be put on the suspension agenda such that we can't amend it, and there shouldn't be secret side deals made on a continuing resolution to lump Ukraine in with border security. That is not right for Ukraine or border security because it fails to give either of those issues the dignity that they would require. But we can return that dignity to this House. We can get back on a better path. We can have single subject appropriations bills. We can set a budget top line. We haven't had a budget in this place since I was in high school. So let's get a budget. Let's get our act together. Let's get on with it. Let's vacate the chair, and let's get a better speaker. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back his time. All time for debate has expired. Without objection, the previous question is ordered on the resolution. The question is on adoption of the resolution. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. The noes have it. The resolution is, gentleman from Florida.
I'd request the yeas and nays.
The yeas and nays are requested. Those favoring a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Pursuant to Clause 3 of Rule 20, the chair directs the clerk to conduct the vote by a call of the roll. The clerk will call the roll alphabetically by surname.
What happens if they get rid of him? Then they need the same amount of votes to be able to vote in a new Speaker of the House. Matt Gaetz just heard that the coal industry likes McCarthy. He heard minors, not minors, and got to work. Oh yeah, he was eliminating the threat, the competition. He can be the only one. It's like that one meme, the worst person you know made a great point in respect to the funding of the military-industrial complex in Ukraine. Yeah, except it's not real, right? Is not like Matt Gaetz doesn't give a fuck about that, dude. What are you, crazy? He is a careerist. I know the vote is occurring, but like, what? You want to fucking look at this? Like, here.
The day began, that was still an open question, right? We didn't know that until about midday today.
It was very much an open question. In fact, we didn't even know that this vote would be held today. McCarthy had the option to schedule it any time within the next 48 hours or so, but he apparently decided at some point this morning to rip off the Band-Aid. It was interesting watching these dueling interviews this morning from McCarthy and Jeffries around 8 o'clock, where they were both sort of saying they were going to talk to their members and let the chips fall where they may. McCarthy said that he...
I mean, I don't like Hakeem Jeffries, okay? But would he be better than Kevin McCarthy? I mean, marginally, yeah. But... I don't like him. I want to point that out, okay? I am not a fan of Hakeem Jeffries, okay? Not a fan. He is openly anti-progressive wing of the Democratic Party. He is Nancy Pelosi's guy. He has said insane things about Israel, like literally. He is probably one of the most like heavy-handed Zionist congresspersons we have. Yeah, he's just awful.
But there was every indication leaving that conference meeting this morning, which sounded like a pep rally at times from the outside, the Democrats were going to stick behind their leader, Hakeem Jeffries, in this latest unprecedented historic moment on the House floor.
You know, Garrett, we're going to come right back to you shortly, I'm sure. But first, I'm joined now by Republican Congressman David Valadao. And, sorry, some technical difficulties here. We're going to bring in the panel here. Former Senator Doug Jones is here, and I'm also joined by Deepa Shivram, political reporter at NPR, former Democratic Senator from Alabama, Doug Jones, and also Stephen Hayes, editor and CEO of The Dispatch and an NBC News contributor. Also,
let's see what Fox News is
Cardenas. Yay.
Have they cut him off?
Kerry. Nay. Carl. Nay. Carson. Yay. Carter of Georgia. Nay. Carter of Louisiana.
Let's see what Cavato is saying.
Yay.
Votes to kick him out. Then what happens? Let's say he
Carter.
doesn't survive this vote. What happens after that? Like you say, there'd be no speaker. We'd be in historic, territory here.
Yeah, there's a little bit of difference.
This is so perfect because, like, they can't even say anything about the Democrats in this situation because it's the Republicans that are doing this to themselves, which is why it's awesome. It don't even fucking matter. Boebert voted no for now. Oh, wow. Whoa, 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 wow.
The clerk of the House, at that point Cheryl Johnson, presiding over that vote because the House was not constituted. Here you have a constituted House. You have members sworn in. You have committees that can be stood up. And so that Speaker pro tem would preside. But by rule, what they're supposed to go to, the next act on the floor is to elect a Speaker. The highest precedence in the House is to elect a Speaker. You can't do anything else until you get a Speaker elected. And so once you get that, then you can go on. So no legislative traffic. And does that take a couple of days? Does it take a couple of weeks? We just don't know. But it took, 5 days back in January, Neil.
Yeah, and 15 different votes here. I'm wondering, would they immediately proceed to that vote tonight? Again, this is in the event that the Speaker loses his speakership.
This is the fly in the ointment because you have that Speaker pro tem, whoever that might be. They probably have a little more agility to declare a recess in the House, maybe adjourn the House for the day, but they can't do anything else on the floor until they elect the Speaker. So you're kind of in this cryogenic freeze at that point until you get a Speaker. That has to come first.
Of these 11 or so Republicans who voted, bring us to this point. Is it possible some of them peel off and, having made the statement, go back and stick with the Speaker?
Absolutely. I mean, Victoria Spartz, Republican of Indiana, we talked to her just a few minutes ago here, and she said she was still willing to give Kevin McCarthy, the Speaker, a chance. There might be a handful of people there, but again, there were 11 no's. So Kevin McCarthy said this morning, and maybe he was really telling us what he knew. He said, if there are more than 5 Republicans who vote against me, I won't be Speaker. So there were 11 on the procedural vote, kind of the test vote a few minutes ago. If that number drops down to 5 or lower than that, then he probably survives. Sometimes members on a variety of issues, Neil, they do something to protest a vote or something. They vote one way just to kind of, make their point known, and then they vote another way later on the actual issue, maybe on the procedural vote. This is the equivalent of that. We could be seeing that right now. But because we're in such uncharted territory, we don't know. I mean, I will say that there is a lot of antipathy among some of those members for Kevin McCarthy, who don't think he's done a good job. There's a reason why he took so long to be elected Speaker back in January, and there's a reason why he didn't get elected Speaker back in 2015, Neil, after John Boehner departed.
All right, Chad Pergram, thank you. You'll be monitoring that. Again, this is a roll call vote in the middle of that right now. 36 yeas to keep Kevin McCarthy in his job, 30 nays. I want to go right now to Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida, the presidential candidate. Governor, we had agreed to this interview and very happy to have you, sir, under very different circumstances. What do you make of this?
Well, Neil, down here in Florida, I think there's a couple things. One, when we take on issues, we don't do any political.
Bitch, that's your guy. That's your fucking that's your congressperson.
And it's really all about that. And then the other thing is at the end of the day, it's all about the results that you are able to produce. And so we've been able to produce results by cutting taxes, by running surpluses, by paying down 25% of our debt. We're one of the few states where incomes are increasing. California, New York, they're decreasing. So that's really what it's about. And what I see up there is
Matt Gaetz literally helped you do debate prep. Get the fuck out of here.
What
Come
it
on.
promised to deliver.
Come on.
I also see a lot of political.
Someone on Fox News has to ask him that question. Matt Gaetz is your guy.
People are fundraising or whatnot, a lot of chaos. And you're just not going to be successful if everything is constantly in a state of chaos. I mean, there needs to be leadership. There needs to be a common agenda. And you got to be able to marshal people to be able to get that done. And so there's a lot of frustration when I'm in Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, a lot of frustration with the state of the country. And then really the lack of urgency that I think a lot of people in Washington have had for quite some time. The border's never been worse. Inflation and interest rates haven't been this bad in 40 years. We have crime infesting cities. I was just out in the West Coast, Neil, for this debate, talking to people in Southern California. I must have run into 6 or 7 people who had told me they've been mugged in the last year. When has that ever happened? And that's normal in a lot of American cities. And of course, we have a bureaucracy that is out of control, that's been weaponized against the American people. So we want to see leadership. And I can tell you, as president, when I get in there, we'll provide the leadership. We're not going to provide chaos and drama. We're just going to provide an agenda that we can get done and turn the country around.
You said that you would provide the leadership. Are you saying in the House Kevin McCarthy did not, and this is his comeuppance?
Well, look, I was actually, Chad mentioned back in the day, I was one of the guys that opposed McCarthy before it was cool. Now you're in a situation where they haven't produced results, and that's just the reality. At the same time, though, I look at guys like Chip Roy, Tom Massey, Jim Jordan, and they're basically saying that there's not a plan to go forward with whatever Matt Gaetz is doing. And so I'm somebody, if I go down a road, I will deliver results for it. I'm not just going to do it and flail around. It's not going to just be about fundraising. I would have a plan in place to be able to deliver what I promised to deliver. I'm not sure that there's a plan in place on this. I guess we'll see as this vote unfolds.
Now, you mentioned Matt Gaetz, your fellow Floridian. Of course,
yes, come on.
Initiated this process. Looks
Drama.
like he might succeed at kicking the speaker out. What do you think of him in this move?
Well, look, when I see the Republican congressman pointing out that there's a lot of fundraising going on around that, that makes me uncomfortable. When you're doing things, you need to be doing it because it's the right thing to do. It shouldn't be done with an eye towards trying to generate lists or trying to generate the way I would operate. When we operate, we do what we think is right and let the chips fall where they may. Sometimes when you do the right thing, you do get more support, and that's just the nature of it. But that shouldn't be what's driving any of this, and I'd hope that that's not the case.
The reason why I mention it, Governor, is that much has been said that Republicans are risking grabbing defeat from the jaws of victory here. They had control, albeit tentative and tenuous control of the House, and they're botching it right now. And a lot of people are looking at Mr. Gaetz as the reason for that. He has already kind of laid out the possibility that after your Florida term is up, and wherever you go after this, sir, that he wants to run for governor. What do you think of that?
Well, look, leadership starts at the top, and so you have different members that go. But I think the leader has got to get people in line and try to deliver the victories. But I look at an issue like.
Why am I looking at my phone? My followers are here for me, and I act like I don't even care. Do you find it to be disrespectful? It's because I'm doing reading on my fucking phone, specifically related to this issue, so I can offer you better, more insightful commentary as fucking this dumbass is actually talking about his own personal goals and his own personal motivations. That is why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I have to do live production as a singular person. Maybe you say that before you do that. Maybe you just, get fucking banned and suck my cock in the process. Maybe I do this content in the way that I'm doing the content, and you just watch. And if you have an issue with it, instead of being a fucking entitled little shithead and then posting about Chatter's rights on whatever fucking subreddit you crawled out of, okay? You just shut the fuck up and enjoy it. If you have a genuine issue with the way I'm doing it, then you could just tune out, leave. Why are you fucking micromanaging the way I operate? Okay? Motherfuckers think that they can come in here and micromanage me in the same way that they fucking treat service staff like they're servile little slaves for the moment in time when they're like trapped serving them at fucking Chipotle or Applebee's, okay? And then they get shocked when I ban them, and then they fucking turn around and go, Hasan, he just hates any kind of pushback, dude. That's why I got banned, not because I was being a little fucking asshole.
Case Arthur Engeron had posted a gag order on him because the former president was posting online what the judge deemed to be dangerous comments about the judge's clerk, his staff, what have you. What did you think of that? What do you think of that?
So I have not seen that. I knew that there was something going on. What I will say
is live breakdown.
When you have the Attorney General of New York running for office saying she is going to, quote, get Trump, that is not the way justice is supposed to work. You don't go after somebody and then just scrutinize them and try to come up with something. And so what I would say...
Yeah, currently and the funniest part about this, of course, is that they just don't have, they don't have an alternative as far as I understand.
Gentleman from Florida is recognized.
Yeah, the problem with my friend from Ohio's argument is that many of the bills he referenced as having passed are not law. We are on a fast track to an omnibus bill, and it is difficult to champion oversight when House Republicans haven't even sent a subpoena to Hunter Biden. So it's hard to make the argument that oversight is the reason to continue when it sort of looks like failure theater. I yield such...
Gentleman from Florida is recognized.
Yeah, the problem with my friend from Ohio's argument is that many of the bills he referenced as having passed are not law.
What's the speaker position? It's the most important position in the House of Representatives. It's like the majority leader. It's the same principle behind being the majority speaker in the Senate, where you are the majority leader in the Senate. You're basically in control over the House of Representatives. You are third in line, I think, to the presidency. So, if the president and the VP die somehow, then you're literally third in line. So technically second in line, because it's the VP is this. The VP is first in line. And the speaker is second in line. I just said the first in line is the president. Stupid distinction. It doesn't matter. I don't exactly know how. I don't know who they would prop up as potential speakers, because we go back to step one. 15 votes have been issued to finally get Kevin McCarthy to be the Speaker of the House, right? So. What is this? Expectation from House Republicans is that after McCarthy is formally ousted, they'll move to appoint a Speaker pro temp from McCarthy's list and then recess to go to conference. No formal notification yet. So, why can't they keep calling for a vote if McCarthy wins? Can the House have no Speaker? Is that possible? I mean, I don't know. I don't know how that would work. Because someone has to, I don't think you can, that's never happened. I don't think you can do that. Or maybe it has happened at some point in time, but I'm pretty sure you need someone to be the leader of the House of Representatives. You would not function without one. I think if there isn't a speaker, the House has to vote on every part of the procedure. Wait, really? Yeah, they need the speaker to introduce legislation. I mean, the speaker is a very important position. That's a lot of it is formality, but it's formality that they follow. So he's most likely going to be removed as the Speaker of the House. That's definitely going to happen. So we'll see what happens after that actually ends up happening. And then we also have the October 4th dumbassery as well. But let's hear from Ron DeSantis. By the way,
that shows you that they do view me as the threat. So you got to earn this. I'm going to earn it. I've done 58 of the 99 counties in Iowa. We're going to do all 99. I challenge Donald Trump to match me, show up in all these communities and earn their vote. And that's what we're going to do. And it's a state-by-state process. Anyone can take a national poll, but ultimately you got to go earn the votes there locally, and they're showing you that they think it's a race because they wouldn't be behaving in the way.
Is this all over? Is this over the fucking spending bill? Not really. Because, I mean, that's what they're saying it's over, but also not really. Like, the real reason is, in my opinion, because Matt Gaetz and a bunch of people are just like, one, don't like Kevin McCarthy. Two, want to posture nationally and don't mind blowing up the Republican Party to do so. They were looking for any reason to shit on Kevin McCarthy and unseat him from this position, which ironically Kevin McCarthy had to give them concessions on to become speaker to begin with, because they have a very narrow majority in the House of Representatives. So that's it. It's like Never Kever's Matt Gaetz, led by Matt Gaetz, are using this as an opportunity to just boost their national profile as like real Republicans. You know what I mean? So do you think this is the Matt Gaetz, Trump crowd's version of just saying, look what I can do if you choose not to fuck with me? Kever made contradictory and impossible promises just to get a job. Yes, but like in the beginning, he didn't have to make those promises. If he had if he was popular enough in the Republican Party, and if he was like Nancy Pelosi, who, you know, has a pretty solid whip, right? Nancy Pelosi knows how to fucking bring caucuses together, okay? She knows how to whip her party. As much as I don't like her for ideological reasons, like I will never sit here and act like Nancy Pelosi doesn't know what the fuck she's doing and doesn't know how to, one, fundraise, and two, whip the party in whichever direction it needs to go towards, right? She is infinitely better than, yes, Chuck Schumer and Dick Durbin, who absolutely suck ass. But they have to suck ass. It is by design for them to. The Senate is designed in a way for them to suck ass because there's always a rotating villain in the Senate that will inevitably throw bills, spike bills, and just like kick it off. And the Democrats will just go, oh, we have no way of doing progressive legislation. Nancy Pelosi, on the other hand, is very good. And just like Paul is very good at stock trading for unrelated reasons, of course. Paul Pelosi is just a very good stock trader. Anyone who says anything else is lying. Okay. Kevin McCarthy is not popular. He's just not well liked. He always wanted to be speaker. And he's not good at shutting these dudes the fuck up. And the Democratic Party and the accompanying media infrastructure, like the MSNBCs and the CNNs and the New York Times of the world, absolutely will bully and eviscerate those who stray away from the whatever, like the liberals who control government at any point in time want, whereas the Republican media infrastructure actually is so good at obstructionist policies and just like crippling the legislative body and promoting people that do that, that, you know, people like Matt Gaetz will not be bullied out of their position usually. So it's the same spiritual problem that I have mentioned time and time again that the Republican Party is facing, which Ron DeSantis will not be able to solve, by the way. Yeah, the live count as it stands is 136 no's on ousting McCarthy as speaker, 126 Dems have voted yes, and 0 Dems have voted no. 7 Republicans have voted yes as well. It's over. It's definitely Jover at this point. Andy Biggs, Ken Buck, Tim Burchett, Eli Crane, Matt Gaetz, Bob Good, and Nancy Mace voted to oust Kevin McCarthy. Yeah, it's Jover. It's for sure Jover. So if they can't oust him, what do you think Gaetz will pull up next? I'm sure he's got something to back up if all this fails. No. Why do you think the Dems refuse to leverage this to their advantage to try to work out a deal with Kev? Because why the fuck would you ever try to get a deal out of Kev? Kevin McCarthy is not going to deal with the Democratic Party. Kevin McCarthy is not going to deal with the Democratic Party at all. There's no fucking shot that would happen. I think this is the best of both worlds for the Democrats to just sit back and allow the Republican Party to fucking self-implode is the best thing to do in their situation. They're actually operating in the correct way because there's no alternative. I don't think that Republicans can easily find someone else, but I also don't think that Republicans or enough Republicans would ever vote for a Democratic Speaker of the House. They would get destroyed in the primaries. Like, there's just no shot that would happen.
They have a 4-seat majority. He will not be the Speaker of the House tonight. But he was, pretty confident that he would prevail. This is a tight vote right now, and we can't tell you the exact number because we don't know how many members might not vote. Might vote present, might not show up. As I said, there's just a couple of votes between the yeas and the nays differentiating this right now. So this is going to go on probably for the next hour and a half. They're calling the entire roll by name. We're wondering if the Speaker of the House might come by here. But to do a reset about what happens at the end of this vote, let's say that Kevin McCarthy wins. The nays on the motion to vacate the Speaker, in other words, to oust Kevin McCarthy, let's say the nays prevail. Then Kevin McCarthy continues as the Speaker of the House. If the yeas prevail, then Kevin McCarthy is not the Speaker. They must elect a new Speaker of the House. And that's something that we've not seen since usually at the beginning of a Congress, or we had this in the fall of 2015 when John Boehner, the Speaker, he decided to retire, and eventually after a couple of weeks, they elected Paul Ryan, the Republican from Wisconsin, but they have to elect a Speaker of the House, and that's the first order of business. They can't do anything else legislatively. And think about what this does off stage. Yes, committees can continue to meet and so on if you don't have a Speaker, but what does that do to the impeachment inquiry? Other just routine investigations that the House is doing. That's a problem for the House because they're not getting direction, because at that point there is not a Speaker of the House, Neil.
So let me understand, in the event, and still ways to go here, we go through the roll call, and he loses. That doesn't mean that he, has to leave. I mean, he's kicked out as Speaker, but he can try. Because in the case of some of the other examples you mentioned, a lot of them opt not to go through this. This is very different, I grant you, as you outlined, Chad. But he can try as he did back in January, and it went on and on and on, and 15 votes, et cetera. So that could happen as well, right? There isn't sort of like a fallback alternative yet, right?
Right. But that vote is just as hard, if not harder, to win now than it was in January, because what it takes to elect a Speaker of the House, regardless if it's Kevin McCarthy or Nancy Pelosi or somebody else, it is an outright majority of all members of the House voting for a candidate by name. So right now, the membership of the House is 433 members. There are 2 vacancies. So that means there must be 217 members who support Kevin McCarthy if all members vote. It's not the most votes win. And if Kevin McCarthy has 10, 11, maybe 5 people against him, that is very challenging. I would note that in vote after vote in January for Speaker, with the exception of one roll call vote, Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader from New York, he got all of his members to vote every single time. There was one time when David Trone, the Maryland Democrat, was absent because he had surgery that morning. But Hakeem Jeffries, he put up this kind of united front. And if you don't have certain people there, now it would be very challenging for Hakeem Jeffries to become the Speaker unless you lowered that threshold and had fewer than 433 members casting ballots. In other words, you get down to maybe the magic numbers 214, 213, 212. That's why it's hard to see. I would say it's like parliamentary algebra. It really is. You don't know what that magic number is going to be because you don't know how many people are casting ballots until you get to that roll call vote. It's very complicated, and that's why we don't really know how this is going to go right now. And right now, we've had a surge. I told you, even Stephen, just a few minutes ago, now there's been a surge right now where Kevin McCarthy was kind of ahead, back and forth. It's going to be a very tight vote down to the wire here. We might not know until the very end, and they might have to see if there are certain members who aren't here. Do they keep the vote open? Do they try to get them to Washington? I indicated that former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is out. She went to California for the funeral of the late Democratic Senator Dianne Feinstein in San Francisco. So again, a lot of it is who is here, who's sick today, who has a doctor's appointment. You just don't know, because a lot of people did not expect this to come down the way it was. We didn't even know definitively until this morning that Kevin McCarthy was going to allow this vote to go forth. Matt Gaetz, the Republican from Florida, he initiated this process last night, and we thought that this might happen. You have to do it within 2 days, is the bottom line. And so it might have drifted to Wednesday or maybe Thursday at the latest. We didn't know until this morning that Kevin McCarthy was going to say, yep, let's go ahead. And I asked him this morning, I said, why, you're forging ahead, just rip the Band-Aid off. And he said, yeah, because I think it's the right thing to do. But again, Kevin McCarthy might have told us something this morning in that interview. He was confident that he would be Speaker, and he said, I won't be Speaker.
The moderate hogs and also lobbyists are begging the Democrats to fucking save the Republicans, which is awesome. A handful of moderate House Democrats have received calls from Republicans asking them to vote to save Kevin McCarthy's job. One source describes those calls as begging. And also lobbyists too, because they're like, please, please help us.
Leverage to get something, to extract some concession in exchange for their vote. That is the horse trading, as nasty as it can be here on Capitol Hill now.
All right, if you can just stay there. Again, it depends on the total number who are voting. We think it's down to about 4 to 32 members who are voting. A simple majority.
It is interesting to kind of see a similar situation play out in the UK as well, where they had this issue trying to fucking figure out like party leadership. It's odd that like Tories keep fucking destroying themselves. It's odd to see Tories destroy themselves like this in America as well, the American Tories and the Tories in the UK, because it's like, you already run the show, dog. Like, what do you mean? You've got like fucking 2 decades of austerity. You got everything you wanted in the UK. Same with conservatives here. You've gotten tax cuts for the wealthy, deregulation out the wazoo, very marginal gains, if any at all, being made in terms of like workers' rights and whatnot. And it's just, I don't understand it. Like, you are running the fucking country, okay? You have everything. Since both the Reagan-Thatcher era, conservatives have been winning, even when liberals, supposedly liberals, are in positions of power. Bill Clinton is a great example of this, where the Bill Clinton administration did so much neoliberal austerity and so much neoliberal trade deals that absolutely drove the fucking knife into the throat of the American working class. That I'll take that. That's pretty fair.
Nay. Sorensen.
Yes.
Yay.
Hold on, I got to pee.
Soto.
Yay.
Yay. Spamberger.
We are monitoring this vote
Yay.
right now. We have about 80 votes to go, and right now, more in the United States Congress want Speaker Kevin McCarthy to leave than want him to stay. Of course, that could change. We're still early in this process. Well, not too early. Larry Hogan is with us right now, the former Maryland governor. What he makes of this? What do you think, Governor?
Well, it's kind of a mess, right? It's a train wreck.
That might be an understatement.
I don't know exactly how the vote's going to come out. It's very, very close, but it's not looking great. And I think we're going to see shortly how it turns out. But I think it's a sad day. I think it's Matt Gaetz is a disgrace that has done more to damage the Republican Party with his actions today than any Democrat ever could. I think it just proves that Washington is hopelessly divided and broken, and that's why people are so frustrated with Congress and both parties, frankly. It's showing that we can't lead. And in the middle of an election year, they've already got 15% approval of Congress. This is going to hurt our chances to keep the House and to elect Republicans in November.
I remember, Governor, talking to you after the midterms, and one of the things you noted was the surprisingly close nature of the midterms, where everyone was expecting a red wave. You were not, I remember. You were concerned about that. This has come back to haunt Republicans, just the narrow nature of this.
Well, and I remember that discussion, and I was concerned, and it turned out there were talk about we were going to have a 40-seat majority, and it was going to be a huge red wave.
Provided ample cushion.
And it should have been.
Yeah.
It should have been, but we shot ourselves in the foot by this kind of stuff, by the far right fringes of our party. Those were some of the ones that won the primaries. They lost general elections. We lost the swing districts.
Who do you blame that on?
I blame it on Donald Trump and a lot of these MAGA far-right Republicans.
Well, he's the runaway leader for president right now.
I realize, but we've lost the last 3 elections in a row. We lost the White House, we lost the Senate, we lost the House. This time we should have had a big win, didn't get the Senate back. Things like this today are going to make it even more difficult in the next election.
So when you look, he's now been dealing with this civil matter in New York. A judge has issued a gag order on him because of threatening comments he reportedly made concerning a clerk and what have you. But he's the guy. And with all of these revelations, and every time he appears before the press and to speak, his numbers go up. So that seems, for the moment, Governor, and you're quite right, I raised it with Governor Ron DeSantis, for the moment, that seems to be the wind at his back. The more this comes up, the more Republicans rally around him. Do you see that phenomenon continuing?
I'm afraid it is going to continue, but it's not representative of the electorate at large. So it's helping boost.
But we don't know that, right?
It's helping boost him in the Republican primary when base voters, they're rallying to his defense and they're not paying attention. But as this thing goes forward with all of these cases, and he's in trial during all the primaries, swing voters, independents and discerning Democrats and softer Republicans, it's turning off some other folks. So what's good in the primary may not be good in the general.
I hear what you're saying, Governor. I apologize for jumping on.
No.
But not enough to hurt his lead over the president.
Well, ironically, we have the two likely nominees, Biden and Trump, are the 2 least popular presidents in American history, and it's sort of a race to the bottom. 70% of the people in America do not want either one of them to be president, and yet that's likely to be the choice.
God, dude, how do you look at the situation and not feel like everything is just getting marginally worse year over year, and how, I mean, I don't know. It's just, we are inching towards full, complete annihilation of Western liberal democracy, I feel like. And I'm afraid that since there is a serious absence of genuine labor-backed political movements, that we are moving towards barbarism and maybe fascism and a fascist mechanism of control rather than like socialism. What exactly does this mean? Who will replace McCarthy? I don't know. I don't know. It's funny though, because like, strict central planning and having at least like a vision, even if you don't agree with the vision overall, is seemingly an infinitely more successful way out of this this current situation that. Bro, how is Mike the doomer boomer talking about how hopeful he's been the past few months and you're sitting here being the doomer? I mean, it's because I look at the gains being made. Kaiser Permanente nurses are authorizing a strike, 75,000 nurses. It's huge, right? I see UAW. I see striking workers all around. Oh, it's over, by the way. It's over. Sorry. Let's talk about this and then we'll talk about it.
218 presumably would do it. We don't know that for sure. It depends on the exact number voting.
They hit the threshold.
On that. Hey, Chad.
Hey, well, 217 would do it for sure. They might be over the edge right now because we just don't know how many members are out. As I indicated, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, the former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, is not here today. She's attending the funeral in California for the former senator, the late Democratic Senator Dianne Feinstein. So if you're at 432 members, 216, gets you right there on the edge. So we're right on the edge right now. We don't know definitively, but certainly if there's one more on the board, then the gig is up for Kevin McCarthy, and he would be ousted as Speaker. I would note that Kevin McCarthy, when they went through the roll alphabetically earlier, he did not vote. Now, historically, speakers do not vote. They only vote a few times a year. He tends to vote a little more frequently than others. But if you see that board go for sure to 217 based on the overall math of the House, because there's 433 members, they have effectively ousted the Speaker.
It is wild that Nancy Pelosi's not there to fucking drive the knife because she's too busy going to Dianne Feinstein's funeral.
Vote or change their vote at the very end. So that's why, it could be
ruining another vote even
right
after
now.
death. Yes, dude. Feinstein's legacy continues, okay? Her fucking carcass is capable of like ruining a good moment. You understand? Her fucking carcass is able to do it. Get out of here.
This goes walk by here in just a few minutes. But I tell you, this is as high drama as you can get on Capitol Hill. This is higher drama than even what we had this past January when it was very close, 15 rounds over 5 days to elect Kevin McCarthy as the Speaker. And I should point out, when they do kind of stop with this roll call vote, they won't close it immediately. There will probably be some back and forth to make sure that the tally is accurate. Right. But this is going to be a nail biter. This is going to be very close, Neil.
All right. Indeed. They still have about half a dozen or so more members to go to here to see it.
Yeah, Boebert, I think they have the votes, for the record, on the Republican side. But, like, Dems would have been able to shut this down. But Nancy Pelosi is attending Dianne Feinstein's funeral.
Mills. Nay.
There's 3 Republicans remaining. Or wait.
Pelosi. Peltola.
To be fair, Peltola is in fucking Alaska, so.
Sykes.
I don't even know if she's there or not, but.
Are there other members in this body who have not been recorded or who wish to change their vote?
Yeah, Peltola is not only in Alaska, but also her husband died in a fucking insane plane crash like last month. So, declared vacant.
here's Lester Holt.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're coming on the air with breaking news and a major shift in power on Capitol Hill. The House just voted to remove Speaker Kevin McCarthy from his post in a high-stakes vote just now on the House floor. It comes after McCarthy, the top Republican, cut a deal with Democrats to avert a government shutdown over the weekend that angered some in his own party whose demands were dropped in the negotiations. It happened because one of those Republicans, Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz, introduced the resolution to remove McCarthy just last night. And it's the first time this process has ever successfully removed a House Speaker in American history. Let's go right now to senior Capitol Hill correspondent Garrett Haig. Garrett, what happens now?
Well, Lester, a speakership that began in historic fashion less than a year ago now ends in historic fashion with Kevin McCarthy, the first speaker to ever be removed from that position by a vote on the floor. What we'll see in the immediate term is the naming of a speaker pro tem, a temporary speaker, a caretaker speaker who will lead the House through the next election to replace Kevin McCarthy and select someone else to be second in line for the presidency. This could be a contentious process as well. The speaker lost 8 Republican votes, along with every Democrat voting to vacate the chair.
Do you think he would have predicted something? I mean, yeah, the never-Kever said that they were going to do this, and they did.
An open question. The House will be largely paralyzed until that question can be answered, Lester.
Is there a timeline for them to get this done?
Lester, we are in uncharted territory. It's cliche to say, but we have never been in this position before in the United States Congress. The House will move quickly. This Speaker pro tem idea is actually a new post 9/11 change to ensure we are very much in uncharted territory, but it is every indication that the House, Republicans still control it, will want to move quickly to name someone as their leader so they can continue the business of governing. Remember, they only have some 40-odd days to fund the government on a longer-term basis after that deal from over the weekend.
All right, Garrett, we'll let you continue to work the story. Let me turn to our Meet the Press moderator, Kristen Welker. Garrett put it pretty well, uncharted territory right now. So what does this mean going forward in terms of the mechanism of government? And that other question, who would want?
There's nothing funnier to me. I'm sorry, we're going to get to what this means for the government going forward, but there's nothing funnier to me than like trying to bully the Democrats to vote to save Kevin McCarthy.
He's one of the names that has been floated about. But I think big picture, Lester, it really highlights the deep divisions within the Republican Party right now. The fact that this is happening after that showdown over trying to keep the government open. And the question becomes, what does happen next? Look, I've been talking to Republicans who are expressing frustration about what they're seeing on Capitol Hill. The fact that this is going on against the backdrop of 2024. They say, look, to the point that
How
Garrett
does it
was
benefit
just
the
making,
Democrats to vote out McCarthy? What do you mean? It's the Republican Party rat fucking itself. Why would that not benefit the Democrats? Like, why would the Democrats care about the Republican Party destroying itself because they have a slim majority? You think anytime you think about anything,
think about our
assume what would the Republicans do in a situation if the roles were reversed, okay? If the Democrats operate in a similar capacity, that means they're doing a good fucking job,
I think
okay?
the question and the concern within the Republican Party is, will this type of activity on Capitol Hill, what GOP candidate Mike Pence has described as chaos, by the way, today, will that take away from those high marks
Subs in
that they are getting?
right now,
and
yeah,
from the perspective
smoking
of
on
the
that
voters,
Kevin
they are
pack.
looking at a series of somewhat chaotic
Never Kever's
events. The
rising
standoff
up
over the
once
debt
again.
ceiling, the near government shutdown, the GOP frontrunner who's facing 4 indictments. So the big question, could this mar them heading into 2024?
All right, Kristen, thank you. For more, let's bring in our senior Washington correspondent, Hallie Jackson. Hallie, mentioned in hearing your thoughts about the way forward and what this symbolizes for future speakers.
Well, right now, let's do short-term, long-term, Lester, because right now the word that comes to mind is essentially paralysis, because that is what is happening in the House of Representatives until this gets sorted out. Garrett sort of made a joke, and I smiled a bit, uncharted territory. Get ready to hear those 2 words a heck of a lot over the course of the next several days, weeks, who knows how long, because that is where we are. We don't know if now former Speaker Kevin McCarthy is going to try to run for the speakership again. We know it took 15 votes.
So you're saying it helps Democrats, but it fucks over the American people. House is deadlocked now for who knows how long. Countdown to shutdown in just 45 days. That is an insane fucking situation to put on the Democrats. Okay? Kevin McCarthy and the Republican Party internally caused this from the jump because of their slim majority Okay, if they actually cared about the American population and not pushing for a shutdown, they wouldn't have literally tried to push for a shutdown and then did this to Kevin because he had no other option but to literally continue budgeting and continue funding the government for 45 extra days, dog. The fuck do you mean? It's insane. And more insane because we already had this conversation like 2 months ago where they said, okay, that's fine. You'll make some concessions to us and we'll promise, we'll do one of those like pinky promises where I fucking do this behind my back to not have this happen literally right now. But you can't do anything when you have an actual terrorist in your ranks. A terrorist who will not be punished by his own voters.
And keep in mind those speeches that we saw, Lester, right? It was Republican versus Republican. This was not something that involved sort of both sides in the aisle, as we often talk about and often hear about here in Washington. This is, I think, the Republican ideological fight, the battle royale that is unfolding in that party writ large in several ways here. Longer term wise, listen, I think we've got to look at the way that American people view the institution.
Can you believe the drama 8 months ago getting him voted in? Yes. Wait, there's a fight! There's a fight! Let's... Yeah. I mean, this was 8 months ago when the Never Kevers were fucking rising the fuck up, doing the damn thing, okay? They were doing the damn thing back then, and they're doing the damn thing now.
To raise their profiles, if you will. So all of it, let me go back to sort of where we started here. Uncharted territory, Lester, no kidding. That's where we are, and that's where we're going to be for a bit.
Yeah, we're seeing the pictures of the major players. Matt Gaetz, who was the one that pulled the political trigger on this. He was talking to reporters on Capitol Hill. We'll hear more from him, I suspect. Let me bring in...
Well, the stages of grief, I think, are in progress right now.
Let's listen to a little of this.
Colleagues, I think there was a stage of denial, and I've certainly experienced a good amount of their
so
anger.
happy. Look at this little
shithead. I think the world of Steve Scalise. I think he'd make a phenomenal speaker.
Has anyone spoken to you? We've got less than 45.
I'm afraid of $33 trillion in debt crushing the working people in my district. I'm afraid of the dollar losing its status as the global reserve currency. If they want to expel me, let me know when they have the vote.
Yeah, that will definitely, the dollar will, you're afraid of the dollar losing its value, which is why we're shutting the government down, dude. That's awesome. Yeah, no, that'll certainly help, idiot.
That led to today's ouster of the now outgoing.
You know what he's actually afraid of? The FBI. Continuing its active investigation into him sex trafficking minors. That's what he's really afraid of. Let's be real.
The chamber, Matt Gaetz, continue to talk.
Doing all this and boosting his public profile, so when the inevitable fucking FBI investigation comes to a conclusion or something, he can be like, they're ousting me because I was, a brave truth teller about American debt or some shit. You know what I mean? Maybe. I'm just saying. I'm just spitballing at this point because there is not any real reason to do this other than to say fuck it, YOLO, and for that I thank the Republicans for doing that. Okay. Oh, never Kevers, rise up, baby! A new speaker rise from the ashes. Yeah, Santos. It's his time. It's his time. He deserves it.
For favors, we are breaking the fever now, and we should elect a speaker who's better.
So if not Kevin McCarthy,
I mean, it's cool because Matt Gaetz basically took on the Tea Party momentum in the exact same ways and pushed it to a degree that the original benefactors of the Tea Party, the facilitators of the Tea Party, would fucking despise this moment. Do you see what I'm saying? He literally is, he saw, just like Trump, the momentum that the Tea Party had, okay, which was astroturfed out the fucking wazoo by the Koch brothers, or the Koch brother now, right? And he did what they've been doing in perpetuity since its inception. And now it's actually hurting the same capital owners who just only want to weaponize this kind of thing to their benefit, to continue crippling the federal government. Because he's not going to actually be able to make demands that get addressed by the broader Republican majorities, gutting child tax benefits or some shit. I don't think that that's going to happen. So, who knows? I say the FBI continue its investigation instead of stepping away from said investigation on Matt Gaetz's misdealings with minors. Okay, that's what I say.
That this represents the ripping off of the Band-Aid, and that's what we need to do to get back on track.
How do you pass anything if 200 Republicans? How do you pass anything?
What do you say to your colleagues who argue you don't have another name right now?
Care.
You don't have someone else who could get 218 votes. What do you tell those colleagues?
Well, I would tell them that for certain, Kevin McCarthy can't get 218 votes, so let's try the next person.
How do you pass something with pro tem, obviously?
There would have to be a real meeting of the minds there.
Congressman Gaetz, how do you pass something if there's 200 Republicans?
Somebody else has another question.
Are you going to ask for a guarantee from whoever is floated as a candidate for the next speaker for them to actually move the appropriations process along in a speed that satisfies you?
Yes.
Congressman, at this
So,
point,
will you be
what
putting
is-
yourself forward for the speakership? Absolutely not. I have no desire to be Speaker of the
How
House.
do you pass, Congressman, with all due respect, how do you pass something if you don't have 200 Republicans behind you?
I know we've already asked about names, but what about Emmer and others?
I think the world of Tom Emmer. He'd make a great speaker.
Congressman, have you spoken with Scalise? Have you spoken with Emmer?
I've spoken with him, but I'll probably keep our conversations between us.
Congressman, take the speaker to retire.
What was going through your head when the vote gaveled down and it was official McCarthy wasn't speaker?
We got to move to the next step. You know, we are not at the end of this process, okay? At most, we're approaching halftime. We've got to be able to assemble a governing coalition. We have to build from a place of trust. The reason Kevin McCarthy went down today is because nobody trusts Kevin McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy has made multiple contradictory promises. And
I'm making
when they
memes
all
in
came
real
due,
time, chat.
He lost votes.
I'm
to people
having
who
fun with
maybe
it.
don't even ideologically agree with me on everything. Take, for example, my colleague from South Carolina, Ms. Mace. She has different views than I do on a variety of subjects, but what we had in common, Kevin McCarthy lied to all of us.
Congressman, hold on a second. You're saying that nobody trusts Kevin McCarthy, but you're talking about, including yourself, about 7 Republicans compared to about 200 and about, some odd Republicans who actually do trust him. So can you kind of explain that here?
Well, as it turns out, getting 200 Republicans to trust
American
you isn't enough
chatters,
to
you
stay
are now
Speaker.
behaving like one of our European social democracies' massive L. No, the massive L is that we're behaving like a European social democracy without any of the fucking benefits of a robust welfare state or public transit. That's the big L here, okay? We love taking the absolute worst from our contemporary countries, our peers, and not any of the good, okay? It's just the fucking worst.
With great confidence that I'm doing the right thing.
Did the former president call you today? Did the former president call you today?
Americans who are concerned about the future of the conservative agenda in the House GOP.
I would say that the conservative agenda was being paralyzed by Speaker McCarthy. We hadn't even sent a subpoena to Hunter Biden. Our oversight was lackluster. Our spending priorities.
Ask my conservative mom about this. She's upset and now strongly dislikes the far-right Republicans and is showing signs of finally ridding herself in the anti-trans hate, saying who actually cares about trans people. It's completely blown out of proportion. It's almost like the Republican Party destroying themselves some sort of curse. Yeah.
Any future speaker elected allows the motion to vacate to stay at a one-person threshold.
Yes.
Congressman Gaetz, would you
Considering that Steve Scalise votes in line with Speaker McCarthy most of the time, why should he want the job after this just happened?
That's a question for him, I guess, not me.
He said he's uninterested. He's already said he's
I haven't heard him say that.
No, he's already.
What has he said to you?
Well, here's what I would say. Here's what I say. I think a lot of members are going to reflect on their thinking after this historic moment. I think anything that people have said before the McCarthy ouster is probably bearing less weight than the way people may be thinking about these questions after the McCarthy ouster.
What is the end game?
Comments about Steve Scalise yesterday and today. Will you yourself nominate Steve Scalise for Speaker of the House?
Maybe. I want to hear from him. I mean, I'm not here to make.
Dude, that's my favorite part. He doesn't even have a guy. He doesn't even know if Steve Scalise wants it, dude. He's like, no, I'm going to do it.
He'd like to put himself forward as a candidate.
Dude, that's so good. This is so perfect, dude. This is a perfect demonstration of Republican obstructionist policies in display. They do not have any real goals. They've actually made all of the all of the tangible policy goals, like eviscerating fucking federal regulation, the regulatory body in general, like they achieved all of that. So they have nothing left. So now they're just like spitballing and fighting one another with no objective sight. Okay? Well, I mean, with no reason, with no real transparent objective in sight. Sorry. Where they're just kind of fucking each other up now for no fucking particular reason. They're just like bored. They said YOLO. Let's fuck shit up. Suffering from success. Exactly. They forgot that you're not supposed to go that far. You're not supposed to win all the fucking time. And now they're doing it. They said, fuck it. YOLO. Don't give a shit. No 3-minute ad break at the top of the hour, except the reality comes kicking in. Because at the top of the hour, there is a 3-minute ad break. We're going to get to the Fox 5 right now. And if you no longer want to see those ads, if you don't want to miss a moment of that, all you need to do is subscribe for $5 or for free. Is Gates the pedo Democrat they always talk about? And he's destroying the Republicans from within. I mean, he is allegedly a pedophile. Don't know if he is a secret Democrat, though. Probably not. He's just from Florida. I'm banning the person who said you have wrinkles. I just wrinkled my dick into your mom last night. Here's the 3-minute ad break now. Let's get to Jesse Waters, the biggest douchebag of all.
So the Democrats and Republicans will meet separately to discuss who they want to have as Speaker. The effort being led by Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz, who's fuming over out-of-control spending and claims McCarthy's broken promises. Lawmakers duking it out all day over what Kevin's fate should be.
Think long and hard before you plunge us into chaos, because that's where we're headed if we vacate the speakership.
Chaos is Speaker McCarthy. Chaos is somebody who we cannot trust with their word.
We need a speaker who will fight for something, anything, besides just staying or becoming speaker.
Under Speaker McCarthy's leadership, our House Republican majority has actually defied all odds and overperformed expectations again and again and again.
This chamber has been run better, more conservatively, and more transparently under Mr. McCarthy than any other speaker that I have served under.
If this House of Representatives has exceeded all expectations, then we definitely need higher expectations.
Former President Trump weighing in on Truth Social, saying, quote, "Why is it that Republicans are always fighting among themselves? Why aren't they fighting the radical left Democrats who are destroying our country?" Judge Janine.
Wait,
I'm furious. First of all,
what?
Without
the radical Democrat.
Something like this hasn't happened in well over 100 years. And now what we've got is total chaos when the Republicans are playing out their infighting on national television in a historic way instead of fighting Joe Biden's policies. The one time we are
what policy, dumbass? You have no policy. You won everything. What policy? What do you want to kill women that even think about getting an abortion? Like what's the policy you have? Like a federal mandate?
I am furious. There's no question that this is something that they
What
have been
policy?
trying to
Just like
do.
melting homeless people? Melting unemployed people. If you're on unemployment insurance for more than fucking 4 months, we just kill you. Or we come to your house and we use the National Guard to make you get back to work at gunpoint. If you're on disability, we just fucking kill you. Is that the policy? What policies remain in the Republican Party, really?
Are now joining with the MAGA Republicans to oust Speaker McCarthy. This is like the devil is in the middle of all of this chaos, and Donald Trump is right. Why are the Republicans fighting with each other like this?
That's fucked
so
up.
Chad Pergram is telling us.
Oh, that's from January 4th.
Tonight. They may meet tonight. It's all in flux. Greg, you've been following this very closely all day. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, the thing is, I got to leave because they need a speaker.
You do.
So I just got to.
I hate the distinction between MAGA Republicans and Republicans that the Democratic Party has created. But I'll be honest with you. I also find it particularly funny that they have started using that distinction on the Fox side because everyone's a fucking liberal at the end of the day. There is no distinction between MAGA Republicans and Republicans in general. They are all extremist psychopaths. Stop trying to make a distinction between MAGA Republicans and regular Republicans. They're all fucking psychos,
They
dude.
broke promises. I had to go find out what these promises were, right? He promised to use the 2022 baseline numbers as appropriation numbers
Especially
for this year.
when the Republican Party goes, Democrats are either pedophiles or communist pedophiles that are vampires. All of them are vampires. And on the liberal side, they're like, oh, I don't know. Let's go back to a reasonable Republican Party. The reasonable Republican Party wants to assassinate you. Now, obviously, they don't literally want to do that in Congress, but they're caving and capitulated to their base that fucking demands that from them. So shut the fuck up about this distinction is what I would say to the Democrats. But right now, today, we're all a little bit more liberal, okay? This is a day where the Never-Kevers and the Democratic Party joined hands in harmony and ousted Kevin McCarthy as House Speaker to be the first in history, the first House Speaker in history to lose a no-confidence vote and end up losing their position as House Speaker. That's right. He's a historic loser.
Don't care about. This has no effect on our viewers. Does it make our streets safer? No. Does it make our borders real again? No. Does it make our gas prices go down? No. It's just sound and fury signifying incompetence. And I get my sense is this was a personal thing. It's a personal thing that's being acted out publicly. And you know what? It's kind of pathetic. But that's my opinion, and I'll be going now.
So, the Speaker Gutfeld.
Yes.
Where's your gavel? We got to shine something
Judge,
up
can
for
I
him.
borrow your gavel?
Right.
Yes, you can.
So, McCarthy says it's personal. Gaetz says this guy signed off on reckless spending that he promised he wouldn't do. What does KDP say?
Well, Nancy Mace voted to oust Speaker McCarthy, which I think was surprising to people who were watching.
Why is that surprising?
And she says it was because it was about trust and keeping your word. Now,
Why is that surprising? Nancy Mace is also like a trumped up
he was lying,
weirdo.
He didn't do what he said he was
What the
gonna do,
fuck?
but it's a 5-seat majority, and Matt Gaetz is sitting in a very safe seat in Florida. And when you have a number of Republicans who are in Biden districts, if you want a majority to win,
Maybe someone said the literal pedophile House Speaker didn't get ousted. Yeah, he is also a record holder. Dennis Hastert, the literal pedophile House Speaker, is the longest running House Speaker in the United States Congress. Now, something that's funny about that, maybe Matt Gaetz wanted Kevin McCarthy gone so he could replace him with Dennis Hastert, a like-minded ally in the war that both of them are fighting against the age of consent laws. I don't know. Because there is really nothing here. There is really nothing else going on. I don't know what the fuck they are doing. I don't know what Matt Gaetz is doing beyond just like personally trying to boost his own fucking profile and doing it in this like psychotic way. Oh, let's hear what our liberal correspondent
Rub it
says.
in, Jessica. Rub it in.
That's not
Make
my
it quick.
style.
Pop off, Jessica.
No, I'm going to make it really long,
No,
actually.
no.
You hear a lot about the impossible job of managing a
It's time for
caucus
Jessica
like this.
Tarkov.
You only had a 5-seat majority. That is the same number that Nancy Pelosi had, and she managed just fine.
Yep.
Nothing like this ever happened when Nancy Pelosi was in charge. And the judge is correct in that they are squandering an opportunity. Today, Gallup released their economic poll data. Republicans have the largest advantage on who's better to handle the economy since 1991. And this will be the cycle for I don't know how many days, especially if they don't even go back and meet with their caucuses tonight. There are 18 Republican congressmen and congresswomen in districts that Joe Biden won. And those people voted for divided government. They said, we want Joe Biden in the White House, but we want to make sure that we have Republicans in control of Congress. This obviously signals that they made a big mistake. But McCarthy actually has no one to blame but himself. Obviously, Matt Gaetz has his own agenda, et cetera. Kevin McCarthy decided that he should go on Face the Nation this weekend and lie about how that continuing resolution got cut over the weekend. He tried to blame the Democrats. Marge Brennan pushed back and she was like, no, they saved your butt, like they did back in January. And it's being widely reported that if he had not done that, there would have been Democrats that would have shifted over and supported him to keep him in control of this. It was a big, big mistake that he did that, squandering that opportunity to hold on to the speakership for, I don't know, a few more months. But yeah, Nancy Pelosi, hats off to you.
Well, it's easy
It's easy
to hold the line when you're a Democrat because you just want to spend trillions. Republicans don't want to spend that kind of money.
There's a diversity.
There's a big difference.
There's an ideological diversity within our party, but we're unified by the fact
you're
that
unified.
we're not
You want to break the bank, Jessica. Sorry, there's no
Don't
unity
act like you care
on the
about
Republicans.
spending. Republicans spend.
How dare you? How dare you?
No, I mean, Jessica's right. The whole spending debate, that's left the building.
Well, there's only 8 that I guess don't want to spend trillions of dollars.
Nancy Mace is mad because she said that Kevin McCarthy was going to work with her on women's issues and gun control. I don't know how you got hoodwinked into thinking that a Republican majority leader was going to work with you on those kinds of issues. She just wants attention too.
Maybe the 15 rounds getting them in the first place and the previously failed speakership years ago were going to be a hint and a preview of where the way this may go, unfortunately. And here we are, going to spend days, maybe weeks, figuring out who they're going to appoint next.
It's easy. It's Gutfeld.
Yes.
He's going to D.C. right now on the Amtrak.
Don't carjack me.
Don't miss tonight. Matt Gaetz will be on Laura Ingraham.
Wait, from New York to D.C.? Like, that's where you live, Buttfeld.
After a Democratic congressman gets carjacked at gunpoint in our nation's capital.
Wait, they're moving on? There's no way they're moving on from this. Oh my God, they're moving on from this.
And dramatic chapters in American
Bill O'Reilly, #1 best-selling author of The Killing series.